give it till Monday. I'm going to make the call. I'm going to talk to people and say, okay, what happened here? What happened here?
Lamont Roach and his team are not standing by idly. They've made it clear that they plan to challenge the controversial draw, which they believe was an unfair decision by the judges. Fight night was marred by some questionable decisions, including the controversial ruling that took away Lamont Roach's knockdown moment and ended the fight in a draw. The event also sparked criticism of Tank Davis's performance, especially after he had boasted before the fight. However, Lamont Roach disrupted his flow with impressive skill. Ariel Helwani, reacting to the fight, pointed out how surprising it was to witness Tank Davis fighting at his worst.
What transpired in that fight was astounding, because you have to remember, Tank Davis was a 16-1 favorite going into this fight. Lamont Roach, while a WBA champion, was moving up from 130 pounds, and no one thought he had a chance. And the general demeanor of Tank Davis going into this fight was like, hey man, I'm kind of done with this. I got 3 fights left. I'm going to be done by the end of 2025. I don't really like this sport anymore. Kids, don't do this. Go into soccer. This ain't for you. And it just was sort of like he was apathetic. Before the fight, he talked about, oh, you know, I'll call someone out and this, that, and the other. Like, it all kind of felt like an afterthought. And then the fight happens, and truth be told, like, the fight wasn't the best fight of all time. It was fine. It wasn't your vintage Tank Davis fight. There wasn't a knockout. There wasn't a knockdown scored by him. It was just sort of fine. If that was your first time watching Tank, you're probably like, okay, yeah, sort of, I get it. But it kind of speaks to his demeanor going into the fight. Like, it just felt a little bit...
As the debate over the controversial 9th round intensifies, many boxing fans are growing frustrated with what they perceive as an unfair moment. Tank Davis taking a knee and asking his corner to wipe his face, essentially calling for a timeout mid-round with the remark, "My face hurts, let me get the timeout," has sparked outrage. Ariel Helwani weighed in, arguing that it was incredibly unfair for Tank Davis to do so. Reflecting on the moment, Helwani emphasized that it was clearly a knockdown, and Tank was violating boxing rules, a point that the Boxing Commission cannot afford to overlook.
And then we get to the 9th round, and then it's complete madness, because in the 9th round, you probably have heard by now, the fight is moving along, and it is important to note that Lamont Roach lands a jab or two, and where we want to start the clock is up to, debate, but he certainly lands a punch. And then seconds after that punch lands, that jab lands, all of a sudden Tank Davis takes a knee. He quickly takes a knee, and there it is right there. 9th round, 217. He is taking a knee, and he's looking to his corner. And he also, ever so briefly, it appears as though he's almost trying to call time. Let me tell you, in case you don't know, in boxing, you take a knee, that's considered a knockdown. You cannot call time. And you know what you also can't do? You also can't go to your corner mid-round and ask them to wipe your face. Ask them to do anything. You can't get a swig of water. You can't do this. You cannot do that.
In round 9, Tank Davis took a knee, but referee Steve Willis did not rule it a knockdown. Had it been called a knockdown, Lamont Roach Jr. would have been awarded a split decision, handing Davis his first loss. Mikey Garcia weighed in on the debate, stating that it was clearly a knockdown, something he believes was obvious. He argued that if it had been properly counted, it would have overturned the scorecards, ultimately giving Lamont Roach the victory over Tank Davis.
Was that a voluntary knockdown?
That was a knockdown, bro. It should have been counted a knockdown. Anytime a fighter takes a knee or glove touches the ground, that should be an automatic knockdown. He didn't go down from a punch that hurt him or anything. Not a flash knockdown, but he did take a knee, and he actually took a knee after a jab. If you look at the tape, it was a jab, and he kind of takes a couple steps back and takes a knee. Someone could have said that was a delayed effect. Someone else could have said it was a delayed, punch that might disturb his eye or whatever, and took a knee. Point of it is that should have been a knockdown. That should have overturned the scorecard, and If that was the case, then Roach would have won.
Furthermore, Mikey also criticized Tank Davis and his corner for displaying such uncharacteristic behavior in the ring. With Tank heading to his corner to have his face wiped down, Mikey pointed out that the judges could have potentially disqualified the corner for violating the rules, something many might be overlooking.
Called off the fight there, they could have disqualified the corner, or I mean, he turns his back and walks away from the fight. That could have been a knockout lost, you know, but at bare minimum, that's a knockdown.
As the boxing world reels from the controversial draw, the situation has sparked concerns within the boxing community about the integrity of the rules. In light of the growing frustration, Lamont Roach and his team have decided to take the matter to the authorities. Speaking to the media, his manager Robert Diaz shared how they plan to address the situation. While acknowledging that the decision cannot be reversed, he emphasized that they are pushing for a rematch, believing it is the only way to right the wrong that was done to them.
I'm gonna give it till Monday. Obviously, temperature. I think I won't. I'll never say it's done intentionally. I mean, everybody goes in there. These things happen on a minute. The judges or the refs have a very difficult job because they don't get to see the replay. But when you started counting, and trust me, he's one of the best referees in boxing. He starts counting. How do you stop your count? So we'll give it till Monday. I'm gonna make the call. I'm gonna talk to people and say, okay, what happened here? What happened here? So, look, at the end of the day, I don't see them reversing a decision, but I do see them saying, all right, let's do a rematch, because that's what needs to be done.
Sharing his take on this particular topic, Ariel Helwani has also voiced his thoughts on the controversy, urging Lamont Roach to formally appeal to the WBA regarding the decision. He emphasized why it's crucial to address this, stating that in his view, it was 100% clear that Roach won the fight. Helwani further highlighted the importance of a rematch, stressing that it would not only provide closure, but would also be an exciting and necessary opportunity for both fighters to prove themselves. Reflecting on the controversy, he noted how it has negatively impacted Tank Davis's legacy, leaving many in the boxing world disappointed by his actions, which he considered unprofessional and unbecoming of a champion. Ariel expressed his belief that this situation is not just about the fight itself, but about the values the sport should uphold, and he argued that a rematch would help restore some integrity to the situation and to Davis's reputation.
And so I think that they should run. Well, first of all, Lamont Roach needs to file an appeal with New York and the WBA, because this was a WBA title fight. I don't know what's going to come of that. Who the hell knows with these things? It seems like there's no real rhyme or reason. But I mean, if there ever was a case for an appeal, he's got it. He 100% has it. He's also, unfortunately, probably been robbed of millions of dollars, because if he wins that fight, the rematch is even bigger. Now, to his point, there's a rematch clause that Gervonta and his team put in case he would have lost, and now all of a sudden he can exercise it. Now, let's see what Gervonta does, but this has to be the way to go. Like, with all due respect to Shakur Stevenson, with all due respect to Keyshawn Davis, or whomever he was going to call out, anything other than going this route feels like a massive, massive disappointment and somewhat of a stain on Tank's legacy. Do you agree, Nirkrik?
Noticing all this uproar following the controversial draw between WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach on Saturday night, the New York State Athletic Commission issued a statement to ESPN's Mike Coppinger stating that it is reviewing the matter. On Monday, the commission issued a statement to MMA Fighting regarding the controversial moment. Commission officials said in the statement, "At this time, the New York State Athletic Commission is reviewing the matter involving Saturday's matchup between Lamont Roach and Gervonta Davis." During the round in question, following the commission's request for the replay video, there was a technical issue preventing the commission from receiving it within the allotted time for review. Therefore, the referee's in-ring decision was relied upon and the fight continued. It seems a technical issue prevented commission officials from reviewing the footage in real time and making a decision on whether Davis should be penalized for taking a knee. While the commission is currently reviewing the situation, there is no indication yet whether any potential decision could retroactively alter the outcome of the fight. While it was a disappointing outcome for Roach, he's already adamant about getting a rematch with Davis after he entered the fight as a massive underdog and nearly pulled off a massive upset. While Davis has been stated to be open for the rematch, Roach himself also confirmed this, revealing his preferred venue to let the boxing fans witness this rematch.
Tank want a rematch. Do you let me know now? Do you want to fight Tank again? He said he open to do a rematch. Do you want to fight Tank
100%. It's only a matter of time. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight again. It's just whenever the fight gonna happen.
So it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Okay. They say they want it in New York again. Do you want to fight again in the Barclays Center?
I wouldn't mind, but I'd love for it to be in DC.
Being on the same page as Lamont, Mikey Garcia weighed in on the decision to push for a rematch, calling for an immediate bout due to the controversy surrounding the first fight. He stressed that this rematch shouldn't be delayed for years. Ideally, it should happen as soon as possible to give both fighters a chance to settle the score. Garcia also shared his thoughts on what the rematch would mean for both Lamont Roach and Tank Davis, emphasizing that it's not just about clearing up the controversy, but also about giving Roach a well-deserved opportunity to prove himself again like he did this time. Garcia expressed his excitement for the rematch, saying it would be a thrilling showdown that boxing fans wouldn't want to miss, and it could provide clarity on who truly deserves to hold the title.
I think they will do a rematch. I think they actually will. Hopefully it's an immediate rematch. I think fans would really enjoy that also. And Roach would obviously enjoy that because he wants to, get a shot at him again after a performance that no one really believed he could pull off, and he did. I'm sure he feels like they robbed him from that victory. I mean, I would like to see the rematch. It was a good fight, and because of the controversy, it deserves a rematch, an immediate rematch, not just a rematch, down the line, a year, 2 years. No, immediate. I hope they get it, and I think they will, because Tank's team, and he doesn't want to leave it up to controversy like that, so he'll take the rematch.
Amid the controversy, many believe Lamont Roach performed better than Gervonta Davis. However, Jaron Ennis holds a different view. He pointed out that people overlooked what Davis did in the earlier rounds, which he felt was significant. While Ennis acknowledged Roach's solid performance, he also expressed concern that Roach didn't fully capitalize on the opportunity to secure the win. This is surprising to many, given that Roach had consistently elevated his game throughout the entire fight.
It was a great fight, I had it 7-5 Tank, or you can make it the draw, but I feel like Lamont, he did good. He did a great job actually. I just don't think he did enough to pull it off. And I feel like people was overlooking what Tank was doing in the first 5-6 rounds. He was boxing and frustrating him a little bit. But Lamont, like I said before, he did a great job,
While fans are frustrated by Tank Davis getting a draw instead of knocking out Lamont Roach, Jaron Ennis believes Tank performed well. He pointed out that Tank was sharp in the early rounds, effectively frustrating Roach. Regarding the criticism, Jaron suggested that it's impossible to please everyone, but in light of the circumstances, it's important to also recognize the strong moments in the fight.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, and I feel like people just don't like Tank to a point where any little thing, just because he ain't knock him out, he probably feel as though that he lost, and he didn't, or it was a draw. I feel like Tank was doing a lot of smart things in the beginning, moving a little bit too much, but I feel like he was still frustrating him and things like that. And I think Tank did a good job. He looked sharp to me. I don't know. People just be talking. At the end of the day, you can't please everybody.
On the other hand, David Coldwell strongly criticized Tank Davis for his poor performance, stating that Davis shouldn't have allowed the situation to unfold the way it did. He emphasized that it was clearly a knockdown and argued that the controversy surrounding Davis taking a knee was a major disappointment. Coldwell expressed his frustration, noting that such moments undermine the integrity of the fight and the sport as a whole. He believes that Davis missed an opportunity to demonstrate his true skill and that the incident only added to the controversy surrounding the bout.
It's a knockdown. You've took an 8. You can't. So we can all come out with that one. Well, I can't because I don't have air gel, so I couldn't use that one. But yeah, my moisturizer got in my eye. But yeah, you can't just turn around whenever you want and just take a knee, because then anyone can do it for any reason, and you can bluff saying, "Oh, I'm just taking out," but really I just got buzzed with a shot. It's bullshit. So yeah, it should have been a knockdown, and I thought, I was a bit disappointed in Davis. And I think he was shocked that even when he did land on Roach, he took the shots and fired straight back. There was one where I think he lands a good shot, and then he gets nailed with a big shot back that stumbles him back, and it's like almost like a surprise on his face. I think, yeah, I was disappointed in him.
As the rematch is eagerly awaited, Joseph Brown shared his thoughts, emphasizing that there's no need to wait and that the rematch should happen right away, especially considering the fight ended in a draw. Regarding Davis taking a knee, which many saw as a disappointment, Joseph acknowledged the situation, but suggested that if Davis had an eye issue, he should have addressed it in the corner before taking a knee in the middle of the round. He went on to assert that according to the rules of boxing, it was undeniably a knockdown.
I feel like it would make sense to do it right away, considering the fact that it was a draw. I don't really see the point in waiting. Like, why wait? But we'll see. We'll see what both of them want to do.
Thoughts on taking the knee?
I can understand Tank's perspective on it. Having your hair braided and grease getting in your eyes like that, it really does sting and it bugs you. So I can understand why he did it, but then when you go to like the rules of boxing, if you do take a knee for whatever reason, I think it's supposed to be considered a knockdown. So I mean, it's kind of hard to say, because I feel like if there was stuff in your eyes, you have to make sure you get that out in the corner before you come out into the ring. But I mean, it could have just came down in his eyes fast. It's kind of unfortunate, a little bit of a weird situation.
At the same time, Showbiz the Adult also expressed his eagerness for the rematch. He mocked Davis for taking a knee, jokingly asking Lamont Roach to first check if Davis's eyes were functioning properly before stepping into the ring with him again. Showbiz shared his deep disappointment and frustration over Davis's actions, highlighting the strange behavior that seemed to align with what he had anticipated before the fight. He further emphasized that such actions from a fighter of Davis's caliber are unsettling, as it not only affects the integrity of the bout, but also leaves fans questioning his true preparedness. Showbiz made it clear that the rematch is needed to settle the score and prove who truly deserves to come out on top.
You got any grease in your hair tonight, Tank? That is it. Lamont, please say that in the second fight. Any questions? You got any grease in your hair tonight, Tank? You got any grease in your hair tonight, Tank? Hey, bruh. Was squared up and turned sideways, and I'm like, oh my god, I didn't think he had that. He was like, Tarver beat Roy, but he knew Roy since amateurs. Roy said he never liked fighting sparring partners because they know you so well.
Furthermore, Showbiz the Adult also confirmed that the results could potentially be overturned in Roach's favor. He provided all the details, sharing his perspective on how this might happen and why it's a possibility. As the controversy is still under review by the commission board, Showbiz the Adult went on to dive deeper into the situation, offering his insights. While some believe that the decision can never be overturned, Showbiz took the time to explore how it might actually be possible, explaining the process and the potential for a change in the outcome. His analysis sheds light on the intricacies of the review process and how the commission could potentially correct what many see as a flawed decision.
This is important. Breaking news. Lamont Roach puts out this X, and he's saying that it looks like the draw is going to be overturned, and that Gervonta Tank Davis is going to, his draw is going to turn into a loss. All right. Now, we have to dive into all of this, because the question is, can it be overturned? How does he know that it's being looked into, and how is he getting that type of feedback? And what do we all know? Well, Mike Coppinger from ESPN, he spoke with the New York State Athletic Commission, or maybe ESPN did, because the New York State Athletic Commission spoke with ESPN, and he's reporting on it. He says on X that right now, the New York State Athletic Commission is reviewing the results of the fight, and it's based on that knockdown, which is extremely important, because if that is ruled a knockdown in round 9, 2 of the 3 judges ruled it in Gervonta's favor. So that's a swing there going into Roach's favor, right? So he ends up winning the round, and with it being a knockdown, that's a point deduction, which would make it a 10-8 round. So that's a lot of points going to Roach's way. Okay, that's a huge swing. Go from a 10-9 Tank to a 10-8 Roach. That would turn the results of the draw into a victory for Roach. And it would be for all 3 judges, all right? If you do the math. So that's very important. You don't have to look at anything other than a knockdown. And can they reverse it because of that call not being ruled a knockdown? Well, according to the rules, they can. And here's what the rules say. When adequate technology is available, instant replay may be used to determine the correct outcome of a bout, including but not limited to yada, yada, yada. And they said knockdown, trip, or slip, which what happened here. They also says here, in order to modify the original call, the instant replay official and the in-ring referee must agree that the replay shows clear and conclusive evidence that the in-ring determination was an error.
Dan Rafael didn't hold back in his criticism of the knee controversy, expressing his frustration over the entire situation. He pointed out the key factors that clearly determined it should have been ruled a knockdown, emphasizing that the evidence was undeniable. Rafael also expressed his anger over the disqualification of Calvin Ford for breaking the rules of boxing, calling it a serious lapse in judgment. He stressed that the actions of both Davis and his corner undermined the integrity of the fight, and such behavior should not be tolerated in professional boxing. Rafael further argued that the controversy detracted from what should have been a legitimate competition, and the sports officials must take responsibility for addressing these issues properly.
I've watched hundreds of thousands of fights in my life. I mean, probably, maybe, who knows how many fights I've watched. 45 years of watching boxing, 25 years of covering it. Dude, that's a knockdown, period. You know, I don't understand how that could not be a knockdown. And so you asked about Steve Willis. The sequence occurred, and when Tank ran to his corner, simultaneously, Steve Willis, you can watch the video, he sends Roach to the neutral corner, and he picks up the count from the timekeeper, and he starts to administer the 8 count, standard procedure, as you said, standard 8 count. You're going to then wipe off the gloves, presumably, and you let him go back to fight. He was getting his, okay, now you go to the corner, and Tank he shouts something to the corner. He leans his head between the ropes, and Calvin Ford, who's one of his coaches, comes up the stairs with a white towel and goes to wipe off his face. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on there. My initial reaction was, I see a coach up a step with a white towel. I'm thinking they're throwing in the towel and they're going to resign the fight. That was my first thought, which was sort of weird to me because it wasn't like Tank was any kind of, even if he went down from the punch or the grease, it wasn't like he was in duress to stop the fight. So that was the first thing. Then I realized he's wiping his face off. Okay, a couple things. Not allowed against the rules. You can't go to your corner during the round. Sure as hell can't get your face wiped off in the round. The only time I've ever seen that, and this happens on a regular basis, but you got to get the referee to do it, is sometimes a fighter may come out of the corner after the rest period and they don't like how much Vaseline is over your eye or something along those lines, and they'll call a timeout and ask the coach to wipe it off. That happens, but not because the referee is doing an 8 count to the other guy and the fighter who is the one that went down gets up and runs to the corner on his own. He basically took a timeout. You can't call a timeout in boxing. The referee can call a timeout, but not the boxer. So even if you accept the fact that Steve Willis missed the knockdown and didn't call it, and therefore he doesn't get a 10-8 round, at the very least, now you got to you should take a point either for the guy turning his back and running to the corner against the rules, B, having the second come up the steps to wipe the face off. That could be another point. That could actually be a disqualification. I mean, the point I've been making to people who've asked me about this over the last couple of days since it happened is there were a multitude of things that Steve Willis could have done to in somehow, some way penalize Gervonta Davis for that situation. Yet he did none of them. Fight resumes. He even went to Tank. You hear him on the microphone. He says, "What's that about?" Now, I don't know what Tank said back to him because Tank did not have a microphone on. And then Steve Willis says to him, "Look, that looks like a knockdown. You can't do that," or whatever. I forget the exact words. And then he tapped him on the chest. He's like, "All right." And then he called Roach back to the fight. So I'm like, what are we doing here? That's a knockdown. End of fucking story.
As the Boxing Commission reviews Lamont Roach and his team's appeal regarding the knockdown controversy, Dan Rafael confirmed that the review is indeed taking place. He went on to reveal that a potential overturn of the result could be in the works, having spoken directly with the commission. While it remains uncertain whether the decision will be changed, Raphael believes that a rematch is the obvious and ultimate solution to settle the ongoing controversy. He stressed that a rematch would not only clarify the disputed moments, but also allow both fighters to prove themselves in a fair and decisive manner, putting an end to the debate once and for all.
Absolutely. They will. I mean, I haven't spoken to the Roach team. I'll actually call them at some point later today, and I'll just inquire what their plans are. But I have to believe that the Roach team will appeal to the commission, which the commission said they are entitled to do, and they'll give them a hearing and listen to what they have to say. And I believe, based on what the commission told me, that it is not out of the realm of possibility that they could change the non-knockdown to a knockdown, change the scorecard, which would then give him the win. And it is possible. Again, I haven't seen the rules, and I haven't been told this officially, but the people I talked to say, yeah, I think it's in our rules that we theoretically could change the result of the fight. Now, whether that will actually occur or not, I don't know. But I do know it's a huge controversy, and you have a lot of people that just look really bad today, and the probability of there being a rematch to settle the score.
With the knee controversy surrounding the fight, many have raised questions about referee Steve Willis's accountability. Dan Raphael shared his thoughts on how the situation should be handled, suggesting that it's crucial to further explore how the commission operates in such scenarios. He emphasized that accountability must extend beyond just the fighters and their corners. Referees should also be held responsible for key decisions made during the fight. Raphael highlighted that the commission needs to closely examine the referee's actions in this case, particularly regarding the missed knockdown call. He argued that in situations like this, the commission should ensure transparency and consistency in its review process to maintain the integrity of the sport.
I mean, I've said this before to others as well. Some people make it out like those of us in the media that do this job that are, people have a misunderstanding of what our role is. I've always viewed my role as a member of the boxing media as a conduit to the public, to ask the questions that the public would like to ask. Now, I happen to be in a situation where I have the access and the credentials to do so, but I do it on behalf of my readers and boxing fans that want information. And so when you confront or talk too nicely or ask about that, you hope that they'll come through and they'll provide the information. The problem is, it's not like me and others who do this job have never tried to talk to a judge or a referee about whatever the situation is. It's that the commission most of the time won't allow them to speak publicly to the press. And I've said this before also, I know several referees and judges through my days covering boxing who would love to talk to the media if they were allowed to, but the commission doesn't allow it. And so they're not going to risk doing an interview with me or somebody else and lose their job over it. So I can't really fault them for that. Now, my perspective would be, at the very least, use a pool reporter. So if you're at a big fight and something like this happens, just take, you can do it on a rotation basis. Take one reporter, pick your outlet, whatever it is, one of the, you can rotate through the bigger outlets, or it's small, whoever, just a reputable person to go in. You go and you're able to question that official or that referee, and they'll come back and provide whatever is said, to the remainder of the press corps. But, as opposed to, they don't want to have them like surrounded by 50 people. I get that. Okay, so let one person go in the back and have the conversation, do the interview, and represent all of us in the media.
As discussions about the rematch heat up, everyone is eagerly anticipating when it will take place. Dan Raphael hinted that Tank Davis has revealed the rematch could happen in May. While many fighters are pushing for the bout to occur as soon as possible, Raphael shared his thoughts on how the timing of the rematch could benefit both fighters' resumes as well as the boxing business. He expressed his excitement about the potential showdown, noting that their first fight at the Barclays Center broke records, setting the stage for an even bigger rematch. Raphael emphasized that a rematch would not only provide clarity on who truly deserves to win, but would also generate tremendous financial opportunities for the sport, drawing in a massive audience and further elevating the profile of both fighters.
I mean, he did have a rematch clause, Tank Davis, in there. Well, here's the thing about the rematch clause. I don't know what the exact verbiage is, but I have to assume it was if he lost. He didn't lose, he had a draw. So not quite sure if that's in effect. But yeah, they both said after the fight they want the rematch. They both said it in the ring in their interviews. They both said it at the press conference. If Tank Davis really thought he won the fight as the champion, who comes away with the draw and keeps the title, but yet he's the guy asking for the rematch, you kind of figure he's the one that probably lost the fight. I think it's a little aggressive to think it's going to take place by May, but I do think that will be the next fight. I'm not sure what else either guy would do. There's, that seems like the biggest fight they can make in terms of the publicity and also for the money. So now I saw like Shakur Stevenson, he was on his social media saying like, okay, he'll fight Lamont Roach, and I believe he would fight Lamont Roach. But the thing with Shakur is he's tied to the mandatory against Zepeda, who obviously has got to win the fight that he's got coming up against Tevin Farmer. And I just don't see. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like it's a bad fight or anything like that. But I don't believe Shakur against Roach is any bigger than a rematch between he and Tank Davis. So look, it's a sport, but it's also a business. I think the WBA will be fine with it. Who Tank is the WBA champion in the lightweight division, and Lamont Roach is their champion in the 130, one weight class lower in the junior lightweight division. So I do believe that rematch will happen, but I don't think it's going to be May. I think it'll be probably later in the year, into the summer. But it's a big fight now. I mean, the first fight did very well commercially. I don't know what the pay-per-view numbers were just yet, but in terms of the gate, it broke the all-time attendance record for a Barclays Center in Brooklyn, 19,250. The building has been open since 2012, I guess. So it was the biggest number of people for an event ever, boxing or otherwise. And it did the second biggest gate ever, right behind a Rolling Stones concert that was in excess of $7 million. They did a little less than whatever that final gate was for the Stones concert. So there's money, there's people, there's interest, there's controversy, there's a great rivalry. There are two top champions. And let's see the rematch, obviously.
And that wraps up today's discussion on the controversial draw between Tank Davis and Lamont Roach, the knee controversy, and the growing calls for a rematch. It's clear that this fight has sparked a lot of debate, and the boxing world is eagerly awaiting what happens next. Will the WBA overturn the decision, or will we see an action-packed rematch soon? Whatever the outcome, this is a story we'll be following closely. If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to stay up to date on all the latest in boxing, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and drop your thoughts on the controversy in the comments below. Do you think a rematch is the right move, or should the decision stand? We want to hear from you. Stay tuned for all the boxing updates.